Robot Talk is the podcast that sits down with roboticists from around the world and asks them the questions you always wanted answered. Like, does the robot deliver to my house? And how does that thing work? Hello everyone! Welcome to Robot Talk. I'm your host, Claire Asher, and this week we're delving into the world of robot deliveries with a guest whose autonomous delivery robots have already completed over 10 million deliveries to homes and businesses across Europe and the US. But first, this is your regular reminder to join the Robot Talk community on Patreon, where you'll find exclusive behind-the-scenes updates, monthly bonus episodes, and opportunities to have your say about the future direction of the podcast. Check out patreon.com/Claire Asher to find out more. So, with all that said, let's get on with this week's interview. I recently had a fun discussion with Ahti Heinla from Starship Technologies about their AI-powered delivery robots that operate independently on streets and pavements. This week, I'm talking to Ahti Heinla, co-founder and CEO of Starship Technologies, a company building autonomous delivery robots that operate independently in towns and cities around the world. Hi, Ahti. Great to have you on the podcast.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for having me here.
So I was in Milton Keynes for a robotics event last year, and the Starship delivery robots are kind of celebrities there. All the members of the public I spoke to were talking about them and how they'd seen them and how exciting it was. So I have to say I was quite disappointed that I wasn't lucky enough to kind of run into one in action. But for listeners who may not be familiar, can you describe what the Starship robots look like and what they do?
Right. So the Starship robots are delivery robots that deliver groceries and food to your doorstep. And you mentioned Milton Keynes. Yeah, Milton Keynes is actually the city where we launched our first commercial operations as early as 8 years ago.
Wow.
So we have operated in Milton Keynes for a long time. Like now, after all of these 8 years, we have branched off to many other cities as well, like, 6 cities in UK that we're currently serving, and tens of cities elsewhere as well. But we started our commercial operation in Milton Keynes. So these are robots that go on the pavement and deliver groceries and food. And the size of the robot is like a suitcase. It fits like a couple of grocery bags and generally deliver within about 20 minutes and preserve like a couple of miles radius around each grocery store.
Okay, and they're kind of, it's sort of like a white box on wheels just to look at it.
Yes, we have specifically designed the robot to be friendly and neutral. We had the choices to make design choices that we want the robot to look more like an animal or like a person, like a humanoid, or more like industrial or more like sci-fi. And we decided on this sort of a neutral look. Our robots are actually exhibited in a number of design museums around the world, and they're quite popular. We are the leading company in this space. We have thousands of robots in operation in many different places in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as soon as you start putting a face on a robot, that comes with all kinds of connotations, whether they be positive or negative. So I think the kind of just functional look probably works in your favor.
Right. Functional, but nice and friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
And how people perceive our robots is actually really important. We are not just creating a utilitarian device. We are creating something that is part of the fabric of the neighborhood. Like Milton Keynes specifically is a city that, you could say gets its groceries with robots and has been doing so for 8 years.
Yeah.
There are children who have been born in Milton Keynes who have never seen the reality that there are no robots delivering in their city. So we have become quite a fixture. Like I said, we are far beyond Milton Keynes nowadays, but Milton Keynes remains our home in that sense.
Yeah. And I think for the people who live there, obviously, speaking from what I gleaned from talking to them, those robots have become part of their identity as a city.
Yeah, part of the fabric of the neighborhood. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So, I've interviewed a lot of roboticists over the years, and one of the hardest things that they tell me to do with robots is to have them operate outside of the lab in messy human environments when there are people around. But at Starship, you've been doing that successfully for years now. So, what are the biggest challenges you've faced deploying your autonomous delivery robots in the real world?
Indeed, completely. I am with you, and I am with these people who have said that the challenge is to operate in the messy environment. So some of the simplest robots that people can build are what's called line following robots. That there's some simple sensors that just follow a line. Obviously, this is very, very distant from what we are doing in the pavements of cities, where anything can happen and it's not a controlled environment. And somewhere in between of these two extremes are the robots that are in industrial environments. That still a lot of things can happen. It's still not just a line, but it is to some extent a controlled situation in that, for example, the safety, you could reasonably make an expectation that in an industrial facility, there are only people who are trained to be around the robots, and they have like safety protocols and so forth. Not so really with the robots on the pavement. So indeed, the big achievement in robotics that Starship has done has been that we operate in the messy environments. We were the first company in the world to start operating robots in these messy public spaces without any human oversight. I mean, people were operating robots in public spaces also before. Like, for example, there have been many projects building autonomous vehicles. Google started driving their, the predecessor of Waymo. They started driving their autonomous vehicle tests in 2009, right? But that was always with like an engineer or two in the car and ready to push an emergency stop button anywhere they needed and having tons of sensors and everything to just watch over the safety. Yeah. So we became the first company in 2017 to operate without these things. And we did so because we had been developing our technology since 2014. So it took about 3 years to develop this to the level where we could operate without constant human oversight. That was a big challenge. After that, of course, we haven't stopped developing. Back then, we launched the relatively limited operation, only a few robots, and then only Milton Keynes, and then only one grocery store in Milton Keynes. And then it was second grocery store in Milton Keynes, and then there was Northampton, and then there was Cambridge, and then there were some of the other places. And now we are at the level where it is 3,000 robots delivering things, and it is tens and tens of cities. And there's one country in particular, Finland, where I think our total market share is about 10%, like about 10% of all last mile deliveries, like same day last mile deliveries, are being done with our robots. So it's a significant, piece of the transport economy in Finland. And I'm sure most of the other countries will be the same and will be bigger than 10% because our robots really work. And it is about scaling. It is about making things better all the time as well. In terms of the challenges, when I started the company in 2014, I actually envisioned most of the things that most of the issues we have encountered.
Okay.
I envisioned that these are all solvable things. I didn't pick exactly the easiest thing in the world to do, but I had helped doing a revolution in one industry because I was on the founding team of Skype. So all of this video calling and talking over the internet, voice over IP, this was an invention where I very much had my hand in popularizing that. And now I'm doing a revolution in another industry, which is transportation. Transportation is actually a bigger industry than telecommunication. So I'm looking to make a dent here as well. In terms of the challenges, I knew we needed to solve for safety. I knew we needed to solve for things like the cost of operating the robots. I knew we needed to solve for the things that how does the robot look? One thing that I would say that actually has been easier than I thought back then is how much people like our robots. And the example of this is your experience in Milton Keynes. Everybody says, "Oh, we love these robots. These are like parts of the fabric of our neighborhood." And this is not something that just happens in Milton Keynes. We are operating in tens and tens of cities, and it's the same everywhere else as well. In the people really accept robots as part of their neighborhood. That was actually a surprise. That's not what I expected back then. When I founded the company, I thought we needed to do work, like real work and innovation in order to get there. But we actually kind of got there almost immediately.
So you mentioned that there's not kind of constant human oversight of each of the robots, obviously. I assume you're monitoring them in some way. I assume sometimes they might get stuck on something unexpected and someone has to go and kind of rescue them.
There are various layers of backups and handling of all sorts of unusual situations. And this is definitely a big part of what we have built up, the technical system and the operations infrastructure we have built up to make sure that we can operate these robots cost effectively. We used to have operations in a way that wasn't in Milton Keynes, that was in US in 2016. We did our first deliveries in the way that we had people, our employees, walking with each robot. And they had an emergency stop button that if there's something unusual, that they needed to stop the robot did something unsafe, then they would stop the robot this way. Obviously, if you think of it from like commercial and economics point of view, it doesn't make any sense. This person walking there could actually deliver the burger or the pizza or whatever it is, or the milk by themselves. And obviously, we have improved that over time. We are now operating without this constant human oversight. There's still exception handling. There's automatic detection of various different corner cases and unusual situations. When the autonomous driving system that drives the robot decides there's something unusual, then it stops the robot and asks a human, assistant to come in and confirm to the robot that the situation is safe. And most of the time, the situation is safe, and the robot can just continue autonomously. But in the long tail of things, lots of things can happen.
Of course, yeah.
The long tail is rare, right? It's a completely operational, commercial quality service. Actually, if you measure things like how often does it happen that there's something unusual happens, that the robot actually does not get to the destination. It rarely happens, but it sometimes does happen. But it happens actually more rarely than it does with the human courier. I mean, if you think of it, in the human courier operation, anything can happen.
Exactly.
A courier can break a leg, can have an accident. These things are rare, but they do happen.
Yeah. The robots are, as you mentioned, operating on pavements. I assume sometimes they have to cross roads to get to their destination. And you're operating in a lot of different countries where road markings might be different, where the availability of drop curbs there's a lot of variability in that. How much of a challenge has that been?
Yes, great question. When we started operating in just one place, it was easier in a way.
Yeah.
But then obviously we needed to expand, and we added another city and another country, and we are operating in Germany, we are operating in Sweden, in Finland, in Estonia, in US, in UK, and we are setting up in Czechia. We are setting up operations in new countries every year. So the robots and machine learning models do need a little bit of retraining for some of the countries, but it's actually fairly trivial. We have matured to the point where we can operate anywhere.
Mm-hmm. So we had a few audience questions that I want to make sure we get to. So Hassan on Blue Sky says, Starship robots seem to be moving faster compared to a few years ago. What changes helped achieve that? And I assume Hassan means the success of the company and not the actual physical speed the robots are moving.
Both have actually gotten faster.
Okay.
Because when we launched our first commercial operation and first started operating without people physically, employees following our robots for safety, we make sure that our robots are very cautious and very, very safe, and they stop at everything. And then over time, we have actually made the robots stop less and to be smoother in driving. So that actually helps people get their groceries a little bit faster right now. But also in terms of the company progressing, for sure, we are a sizable company now. We are doing tens of thousands of deliveries every day and operating thousands of robots. In fact, you mentioned that sometimes our robots have to cross the road. Yes, that is the case. And our robots actually cross the roads. Collectively, our robots do more than 100,000 road crossings every day.
Wow.
So literally, we have talked, for 20 minutes now. During this time, our robots have probably done hundreds or thousands of road crossings as we speak.
Yeah, that's strange to think about.
Yeah. So it is quite significant scale where we are at. It is the same scale as Waymo is with their autonomous vehicles, like thousands of them driving around all the time. And it's still the case, of course, that even if you're operating in 6 cities in UK, most of the population in UK doesn't live in these 6 cities. So most of the population is still living in this reality where they do not see robots all the time. And they probably think that autonomous delivery, autonomous transport is happening in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
But the people who live in Milton Keynes and some of the other cities and Finland, where everybody knows our robots, they know that this is a complete possibility. This is the reality right now. We are living in this 21st century where transport is automatic, where things can move around without a person touching them. And we have built not just this one robot that we can show on YouTube. We have built a whole system for autonomous logistics at scale.
Mm-hmm. So has it been like just a gradual kind of building of the foundations and kind of growing from there? Or can you pinpoint a moment when the company suddenly kind of took off?
There have been many different milestones in building this company. So first, there were 2 guys on the whiteboard. Then we needed to build a prototype of the robot. That was a big thing, something that was first physical thing for us to look at, for everybody to look at and see that, okay, can this sort of box on wheels deliver something?
Mm-hmm.
Then it was about making it actually drive by itself. Then it was about making it drive by itself safely, so that we could operate without people following robots for safety. Then the next big milestone was to do first commercial operations, where we're doing our first commercial deliveries to real people, not like people who were participating in the testing program or something. By now we have major grocers and major delivery apps as our customers. In UK we are delivering with Uber Eats, Just Eat, Co-op, and in other countries the other leading delivery apps and leading major grocers, where dozens of cities get their deliveries with our robots. Our robots also have gotten more and more cost efficient. So there's one thing in robotics is a lot of people developing commercial robots, commercial robotics companies. They say that part of the reason why they are developing this is that they know that people can do the same thing that their robot's doing, but their robot's going to be lower cost to operate than having people do that job. But even though lots of companies say that, the first robot that they're going to develop is actually going to be really expensive.
Yeah.
Robotics is not a low-cost industry. So it actually takes a decade of optimization to get robotics optimized to the point where it is actually cost-efficient to operate, which we have done. So it is lower cost to operate our robot than to have a human courier network. And I am sure, some of that will also drive adoption of our robots.
Yeah.
I'm sure the human couriers will still also have work. There's just more and more appetite for delivery in the world.
Yeah, definitely. So we had another question from Hassan on Blue Sky, who wanted to know how much processing is on board the robot versus the cloud.
Right. And I can explain, this question, to a non-technical audience. So there's lots of computation and machine learning and automated decisions that need to be taken place. Should the robot turn left or right? Should the robot stop? Should the robot continue? What is the safe decision here? I'm crossing a road right now. There's a traffic light. Is the traffic light indicating that I can cross or not? Is there a car coming? If this car is coming, is the car going to be crossing the road I am on, or is the car driving on another road, for example? So lots of computation and lots of decisions. And to answer the question, vast majority of the decisions that the robot is doing happen on the robot itself. And that is because these decisions need to be quick.
Right.
Our robots are constantly connected to the internet. And via that, they also communicate to our cloud infrastructure. So there's also cloud compute that also helps the robots. But vast majority of the decisions are done by the robot themselves. But there are some decisions that do not need to be taken very quickly. Like, for example, if the robot is driving from point A to point B, there's a number of routing decisions. Should the robot take this route? Should the robot take the other route? Should it cross the road here? Should it cross the road elsewhere? This route is actually pre-calculated for the robot by our cloud infrastructure, which is a self-learning routing system that learns from all of the thousands of journeys, millions of journeys that other robots have done before. So the robots, you could say that they're collectively sharing information. If one robot has some sort of an experience where it's really slow going on that pavement because of whatever reason, other robots actually learn through that. And the cloud system calculates the optimal route for the robot and tells the robot, okay, you take this route. So this doesn't happen on the robot. This happens in the cloud.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then we had a question from Arnie on Blue Sky, who said, would a RoboCup style competition for delivery robots make sense to foster visibility and abilities, or do you think the technology is already beyond that stage?
Great question. I think the time for that, from Starship perspective, maybe it was about 7 years ago, because competitions like that are really useful in kickstarting prototype level or early commercial development. I myself am also an ex-participant in a number of robotics competitions. Like I was leading a professional team in one of the NASA professional robotics competitions and NASA Centennial Challenge. And I was a competitor in Estonian robotics competition called Robotics, which is actually one of the largest robotics competitions in the world with more than thousands teams competing with the robots in various challenges. But that was for me 12 years ago. When I started developing Starship, it quickly, in a number of years, became a scope and scale that goes outside, I think, a competition. And it became years of systematic and diligent work to make some metrics better, to make safety better, to solve all sorts of corner cases. It wasn't to have this one successful delivery which you could then exhibit on in a competition, or there could be judges, judging their, hey, did this robot get to the destination?
Yeah.
Like right now we are at the point where, every robot gets to a destination. Every robot drives well. It's only some of the corner cases, 0.1% of the case that it doesn't, or there's something unusual happening. So I think this level of maturity is probably not really appropriate for a competition anymore.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we've talked about the fact that you're operating in the real world, out on the streets, and as so often is the case with technology and with robotics, I think regulators and policymakers have been struggling to keep up with the pace of new technological advances, and often the regulation kind of lags behind the technology a bit. And I imagine that can make it quite challenging for robotics companies to actually get products out into the real world. So can you talk a little bit about the regulatory environment for autonomous robots out in public places?
Yeah, the regulatory environment is very important. I think a lot of technologists starting robotics companies probably at first overlook regulation, or think that this is something that maybe we don't really think of on the day one when we're starting a company or starting a product. But it's more important than a lot of people think. When you said that the policymakers often are struggling to keep up, it really varies. Some do, some don't. And it really, really, really varies. Like I mentioned, that Finland is a country where everybody knows our robots, and our robots do about 10% of the same-day last-mile deliveries that are done in Finland. Part of the reason why that is the case is actually that the Finland regulators were very forward-looking, and relatively early on, already several years ago, put forward a national regulation regulating how robots could operate in the pavements of the whole of Finland. So other countries have also done the same. Actually, the country of Estonia did it even sooner than Finland. That was already in 2017. And now German regulators are very much looking into it as well, and several other countries as well. In UK, I would say the local councils have been very forward-looking, and we have clearance to operate in many places in the UK. I would say the government in UK has been slower on this. I would say on that sense, it's just the fact that the UK government, in terms of making a national regulation, is only right now considering to do it. Whereas many other countries have already done it years and years and years ago, which is also a factor in why we have nationwide coverage in Finland, and we will have nationwide coverage maybe in other countries before we do nationwide coverage in UK.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we do, because regulators, in fact, actually really love our robots, because it's just a solution that has almost no counter arguments. It's also the most environmentally friendly way to deliver anything. Our robots use very, very little energy. The energy used for one delivery is about equal of boiling one kettle for tea.
Wow.
So it's actually less energy use than any motorized form of transport. It's actually less energy use than you as a person spend walking to the grocery store and back. So this is actually the most environmentally friendly to deliver anything, is the most lowest cost way to deliver anything. And that's a whole scalable, economical, efficient, environmentally friendly system for autonomous logistics at scale that you can deploy nationwide to have any goods move automatically and efficiently.
I hope it comes to my city sometime soon. So what is next for Starship Robots? Are you mainly focused on just scaling to more locations now, or are you planning to add new features to the robots?
Scaling to more locations for sure. We are also making the robots even more efficient. And I mentioned a number of changes and improvements that we have done over the years. Make the robots drive smoother, make every corner case or everything that sometimes people do not understand about the robots, and all of these things make it smoother. So that is work that is very much happening. Now we have the experience. Now we know what the economy and the consumers need in delivering robots. We are making robot baskets, fit slightly more things. Right now, the robot fits about 2 or 3 grocery bags. It would be useful to fit 4 grocery bags.
Yeah.
There are a number of developments that we are doing.
Okay. I guess that, with the kind of smoothing of operations of addressing these corner cases, the more you do that, the harder those last few become. The rarer and rarer these events become, and the harder it is to address them.
I guess you're right. But on the other hand, when I started the company, 2014, we were 2 guys on a whiteboard, and we were saying that we are going to develop these delivery robots that are going to drive by themselves efficiently and smoothly and safely. And I think it was a lot of benefit of the doubt that people would need to give to us, or it's developing this was also a big unknown.
Yeah.
In that, how quickly are we going to be clearing these hurdles? Right now, it is also much more deliberate, and we know exactly what we are doing. So even if right now some of the remaining things that we want to improve are harder because just we have done all of the easier things.
Yeah.
Then we also are much more deliberate in knowing why we're doing it, what we are doing, how much resources do we need to put into it, and just go and do it.
Yeah, fair enough. Ahti, it's been really fun chatting to you today. I've been speaking to Ahti Heinla from Starship Technologies. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoy Robot Talk, please share the podcast, subscribe, and leave a review. And check out @RobotTalkPod on social media to see a photo of a Starship delivery robot driving along a pavement in Milton Keynes. Next week, I'll be talking to Maria Koskinapoulou from Heriot-Watt University about robot sensing and manipulation. Until then, I've been Claire Asher, and this has been Robot Talk. Robot Talk Season 6 is sponsored by the Hamlin Centre, Imperial College London.